Hi, I'm Gregg LeFevre, and this is The Compulsive Storyteller, a series of short personal stories that prove the adage that truth can be stranger than fiction. This week's episode is the third of a 4-part series about cops, specifically my altercations with bad cops, corrupt cops, and dumb cops over the years. Part 3 is Paper Trail, where my wife and I get a shakedown from a rural cop preying on out-of-towners. As mentioned in the intro to a Bad Cop episode from last season, after the police killed George Floyd, I made a list of all the times I'd had difficulty with the police. I came up with 36 instances, and I recount another one of them here as a cautionary tale. Had I been a black man or a brown man, any one of these 36 run-ins could have been fatal for me. Bad cop, paper trail. My wife and I are headed from New York City to Prince Edward Island on vacation. The ferry only crosses to the island a couple times a day, so we have had to plan our trip accordingly. As we drive through New Brunswick, there's lots of construction and the summer traffic is slow. So to make the ferry, I have to really step on the gas along the final straightaway in New Brunswick that runs from Picton to Caribou, where the ferry leaves from. As I speed along, I look at my rear view and there's a cop car with its lights flashing and siren wailing. I pull over and the officer approaches our car. After he asks for my license and registration, he says, "Do you have any idea how fast you were going?" "Sorry, officer, I don't." "Well, do you know what the speed limit is along this stretch of Highway 106? "Sorry, officer, I do not." "Seems to be a lot of things you don't know." "We're trying to make the ferry, sir. Any chance you could just let us off with a warning?" "No chance," he responds. "The regular fine in these parts for speeding is $100, not to mention the added fine for reckless endangerment because you were going almost 20 miles an hour over the limit." "Isn't there anything I could do to—" Then he interrupts me and says, "You can plead guilty to me and pay a cash fine of $100. I look in my wallet. "Officer, I'm sorry. I'm happy to pay you, but I don't have that much cash." "God, there's an awful lot that you're sorry about," he responds. He then shakes his head and looks off into the distance across the flat marshland on the side of the highway. "I can write you a check for $100. "Okay, let's do that. You can make it out to Donald Ridgway, and I'll square it with the department tomorrow." "Oh, thank you so much, officer. I really appreciate it." I write the check, and my wife and I smile at each other as we continue on our race to the ferry, speeding all the way because Officer Ridgway has told us there are no more radar traps before the ferry terminal. I say to my wife over the roar of the engine, "Yeah, he'll square it up with his department in the morning. Sure thing." And we both laugh. Then she adds, "But you never know. Maybe he will. Or maybe the whole department is in on the scam." We're the last car on the ferry, and as we stand at the deserted railing overlooking the choppy waters of the Gulf of St. Lawrence with the wind blowing in our faces, I yelled to her, "I can't believe how brazen the cop was to take a personal check for a bribe." "Yes," my wife says, "talk about a paper trail," and again we both laugh. At the National Park campground on the island, we tell our cop story to a number of different people and run into 2 different couples who have the same story to tell, except that they had both paid in cash, so no paper trail. When we get back to New York, I keep meaning to call the Picton Police Department and make a complaint, but I never quite get around to it. And it finally becomes a memory lost in the past. Probably would have been futile anyway, though, reporting police corruption to the same corrupt police department. The Compulsive Storyteller is written and narrated by me, Gregg LeFevre, and co-produced with Peter Kokoma, who's also made our theme song. If you enjoyed this week's episode, we'd love your help sharing the show. Please subscribe to The Compulsive Storyteller for free on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And also, if you could leave a review, that would be fantastic. Follow the show on Instagram @The Compulsive Storyteller, and check out our website for more information at thecompulsivestoryteller.com. Thanks for listening, and if you don't like this one, the next one will be another story.